expecting.
And when we'd know, which was not supposed to be till Saturday.
So how come you didn't compliment me 4 years ago when I did it?
Or
exactly
8 years ago when you said Hillary Clinton will be the next president? I don't know, Frank. I think a lot of what you've been saying the last couple of weeks I've disagreed with. I just have. And I disagree with you saying that if Kamala had changed a few things that she would have won. I disagree with that. The country was not ready. And I don't think she was ever in the lead. But Andrew, it's your interview. Go ahead.
Frank, well, just to the extent, I'm curious, on a morning like this, to the extent that anybody who is hopefully thinking about this is trying to be introspective about where they were right and where they were wrong, how do you think about it? Fox, NBC News now officially projecting that Donald Trump has won the presidency. Joining us right now is pollster and political strategist Frank Luntz. We've been talking to Frank now for many months in the days and weeks leading up to what's been an historic moment, Frank. And before we even just get into it, I wanted to get your biggest takeaway and maybe perhaps surprise, given I'm not sure that, as we've been talking, that this was not the outcome, I think, on the Electoral College map, but maybe even on the popular vote that you were expecting.
And when we'd know, which was not supposed to be till Saturday.
So how come you didn't compliment me 4 years ago when I did it?
Or
exactly
8 years ago when you said Hillary Clinton will be the next president? I don't know, Frank. I think a lot of what you've been saying the last couple of weeks I've disagreed with. I just have. And I disagree with you saying that if Kamala had changed a few things that she would have won. I disagree with that. The country was not ready. And I don't think she was ever in the lead. But Andrew, it's your interview. Go ahead.
Frank, well, just to the extent, I'm curious, on a morning like this, to the extent that anybody who...
Wow. Was that something else or was that something else? Joe Kiernan literally gave Frank Luntz the velvet glove. I mean, Frank Luntz goes, hey, guys, how come you didn't give me credit 4 years ago? And Joe Kiernan goes, well, wait a minute. You were wrong in 2016. You were wrong before. You were completely wrong this year. You kept giving, flip-flops. You were flipping and flopping as much as Kamala Harris was. And then he goes, but you know what? It's not my interview. So Sorkin, take it away. Folks, classic. If you saw Frank Luntz during this entire, he was on Kamala's side. Then he would come back to Trump's side. Then he would go back to Kamala, then to Trump. Then he said that Kamala won the debate. We all told you the debate didn't matter. And Frank can't get it out of his unbelievable brain. He just can't get it through his skull. The debate. Nobody gives a shit about the debate, Frank. Anyways, let's continue with this because this is just absolute. This is why these guys are never going to realize what they're doing, especially if they listen to some of these polling hacks like Frank Luntz. Really. You're watching the Dr. Nasser Sheikh Show. You all know what to do. If you like this content, subscribe to the channel, like, share, and follow us. Let's get back to more of the prognostications and the not predictions of Frank Luntz.
Is hopefully thinking about this, is trying to be introspective about where they were right and where they were wrong. How do you think about it?
I think that the debate didn't matter. And that's the single thing that bothers me the most. And that's the
not
one
even
that
the cat eating? Not even the cat eating you're almost crying about, Frank?
No, it's a surprise to me that the public and Joe, you, that it didn't bother you. And it doesn't bother the public.
That's
but
right.
The public has spoken. And what's impressive about this is that Donald Trump is able to survive an onslaught of criticism through much of this campaign, and not only survive, but thrive. That he's going to win the popular vote, which I did not expect. That he's going to win all the swing states, which nobody knew. In fact,
I knew.
Not only is he winning, but he's bringing a Senate with him and likely a House with him. This is significant.
And so what does that say, Frank? So as somebody who's been in this business a long time, what does that say to you about either the strength of Trump as a candidate and as a communicator, the weakness, perhaps, of Vice President Harris as
Absolutely,
a candidate
absolutely.
and communicator? Does it say something more broadly about the country and policy and the way they're thinking about this?
Yeah, Trump's a genius. Kamala's a retarded political operative. Plain and simple. She's an idiot. Kamala the idiot, Trump the genius. That sums up this campaign in a single sentence. Very few words, concise, precise. Trump genius, Kamala idiot.
The different parties. How do you break that down?
It's all three. Andrew, you're correct in all three cases that Donald Trump's support was so intense that it did not matter what people said about him.
That's
it did
right.
not matter what happened at his rallies. It did
That's
not matter
right.
his debate performance. They were
That's
going
right.
to stay with him because they believe in him and they're committed to him. And that is half the country. Harris's
And that's a surprise to you, Frank?
campaign in their inability or unwillingness to define exactly what they would do in the first hours, the first days, weeks, and months, that her unwillingness to level with the American people and explain why some of her issues have changed demonstrated what a weak candidate she was. And in the end, it would have had to have been someone else, not her.
If she was such a weak candidate, Frank, then why were you at so many times during this shortened period of 107 days, I would say more than 90% of the time, you were basically saying, Kamala's in the lead. She's going to win. She's got it. Why was there such vacillations then? 90% you were for, 10% you were against? Now you're, in retrospect, now you're bringing this up when you should have known this from day one?
Her who could have beaten Trump. And as far as the country's
Well, look,
concerned,
Frank, there's going to be a lot of recriminations in the Democratic Party.
No, there
probably
won't
starting
be.
with Biden and Harris. But my question is, do you think that Biden therefore should have stuck in this? Would have that
No.
been a different outcome?
they should have had a vote. The public had a right to choose. This is the first vice president or the first candidate for president, other than when you have, God forbid, an assassination. She had never put herself to the test. She had failed in 2020. This is probably the most important thing for viewers. Her one chance to run for president, she had done such a horrible job, and that she didn't improve after 4 years.
So why didn't you point that out when you were talking about this during the 107 days of this campaign? If this is what you're talking about was such a big deal, why weren't you pointing this out before? During all the polling data that was coming out, and you were saying, it's Kamala, she's in the lead, she's winning, she's got the momentum behind her, she won the debate. Doesn't make any sense, Frank.
But in the end, it's also the public's disdain for high prices, their disdain for insecurity at the border and across the country, and
No
their
shit.
demand that the last 4 years that they did not succeed, that they failed on the inflation and affordability, and that the public did not want 4 more years of it. In the
Monday
end,
morning quarterback.
in the end, it was the public saying enough with an exclamation point and all caps.
When you think about what happens next in terms of the politics in Washington, it does look like we may be headed towards a sweep. What policies get enacted, what don't, what acts as a governor or not on that. I know we've talked a lot about the business community oftentimes saying they like divided government. I'm not sure that's necessarily the case, given that we actually have the Dow looking like it's going to open up 1,250 points higher.
Yeah,
right now.
baby.
Yeah, and the fact is that they look at Trump's policies, they were assuming that Harris had a good shot. It's one of the reasons why the stock market is doing so well right now, is that they know that tax policies are going to be different, that growth policies are going to be different. The question is, do they stand on tariffs? Because that's going to be a significant dispute in Washington, both in the White House and in Congress, and what happens with that.
So
But
do you
in the
think
end,
Tariffs is going to be the new boogeyman from the left and from people like Frank Luntz. They're going to go, tariffs. Trump says tariffs is the most beautiful language and beautiful word in the whole English language. Better than sex. Better than love. Trump. You got to love the guy. But Frank Luntz and the acolytes in the media, they're going to go all in on that tariffs are going to destroy this country.
All the economists, though, Frank, do you think all the economists, I mean, look, you heard Kamala Harris say it. By the way, I repeated it. The Nobel Prize winning economists who all said that Trump's economy was going to become a problem. Even Elon Musk saying at certain points that he thought there would be temporary hardship. It'll be very interesting to see what happens over the next 4 years, of course. But clearly the American public did not look at that and say that either they thought that was accurate or that they cared, right?
And neither is the business community. They may have said one thing a week ago, but they're saying something completely different right now. And you can see that they vote by how they're investing, by how they're committing more dollars, and why the market's going to open up so much higher. That's their statement, that they agree with what happened. And my only warning is that we still are divided, that
nobody
even with
gives a
Republicans
crap.
gaining a clear control of the Senate and keeping control of the House with a couple, maybe 3, 4 additional seats, we're still an evenly divided country, maybe 51-49. And that I'm hoping that this ugliness and this gotcha politics can somehow subside.
No, we don't want to subside. We want to absolutely crush the other party. And, we don't want, who cares about the divide? Oh, everybody is so mean-spirited. There's so much division. That's all these guys talk about. Frank Luntz, the hand-wringing. Oh, you know what? We need to just reach across the aisle and be, all kumbaya and reach out and compromise. No, we won, and we're going to keep the pedal to the metal, and we are going to crush the Democrats until the party is completely decimated and can never come back. That's my opinion. That's where you got to win a game. You don't win when you're winning the game. Guess what? You don't pull your players out. You don't pull them out until you've completely destroyed the other team and their will to continue to fight, to continue to play. That's what we need to do as conservatives, because that's how the Democratic playbook works.
So that we can once again have these really strong emotional fights, but do so with respect, with civility, with decency, that we haven't seen in the last, frankly, in the last 8 years.
Frank, if you were running, we got to run, but if you were running the DNC right now and you were trying to be introspective to the degree you could be, what would you be telling them they need to rethink?
Oh, yeah, please listen to him.
Names: Cory Booker, Wes Moore, and Mitch Landrieu. All brilliant political people that have amazingly strong records and know how to communicate the values of the American people. Either of those 3 people could have beaten Donald Trump. Not saying that.
Oh my God, this guy is a total political moron. He's a lunatic. Please, for God's sakes, Democrats. I'm glad, Sorkin, that you asked him this question. Absolutely. Booker. And the other 2 guys who are there. Yes, please. On the Democratic side, listen to Frank Luntz's advice. Put them up in 2028.
Would have, but could have. And that's what the Democratic Party needs.
Woulda,
people
coulda,
who
shoulda.
Understand and come from the community and know how to communicate.
I noticed one name's not on that list that I thought might be.
Shapiro
From Pennsylvania,
Okay, Shapiro and maybe Gretchen Whitmer. But I'll tell you one thing. The Democratic nominee for vice president, he's not on that list.
Just want to finish off by saying, please, Democratic Party, absolutely listen to people like Frank Luntz, because these guys have been so right on everything that they've been talking about. I want you to, Frank, continue driving down that lane, buddy. Don't take an exit. No right turn, no left turn. Actually, keep going left. Any exit to the left, keep taking it. Any turns to the left, keep taking them. The more left turns, the better, baby. Because we just love the fact, Cory Booker, communicative skills, that he could have actually beaten Trump. They'd say he probably wouldn't have, maybe he wouldn't have beaten Trump, but he certainly probably could have, woulda, coulda, woulda, shoulda. Unbelievable. absolutely politically clueless. Clueless with the predictions, with what they ought to be doing, the introspection, the Monday morning quarterbacking. It is completely wrong. Even when they see the evidence in front of their faces, they still don't understand, because they don't understand the strength of Donald Trump. They actually thought that he was going to peel off people because he said a few things, because he made a few jokes, because he talked about Arnold Palmer's package, because there was a comedian that made a joke about Puerto Rico and Puerto Ricans. And that's going to siphon off voters. I mean, these guys are politically idiotic morons, politically retarded. They actually are. Anyways, folks, we appreciate you taking the time to watch. You've been watching the Dr. Nasser Sheikh Show. I've been your host. My name is Doctor. If you haven't done so already, subscribe to the channel, like, share, and follow. You all know what to do. Take a look at our other video links. You'll see 4 of them in front of you. We got so many more on our YouTube webpage. My final thought, as always, and before that, put your comments, share down below. What do you think of Frank? Are you with him? Are you against him? What do you think of his predictions? My final thought, as always, when you're right, you're right, and when you're left, you're wrong. Until we meet again, folks, take care, and y'all stay safe.